He paused long enough on his video game to chuckle at the idea of missing signs posted all over the neighborhood. That would be too funny. From his internet research, he found that most pets that ran away found the signs both funny and ironic. They agreed that they weren't missing since they'd purposefully run away. Not quite missing when looked at it from that perspective. Yes, Oscar was different than most pets who just sat around all day staring out the window, wondering what was out there. No, he had made up in his mind that he was going to go see for himself. Growing bored with the video games, he clicked on Google and began to surf the internet. He was beginning to feel like that one red bird from Angry Birds, a bit angry with his current situation, although he thought it could have been worse. There were several times he'd overheard her parents discussing whether or not Aurea could handle another pet. His vote on this matter was absolutely not. Now that other pet, had they brought one home, would have ended up missing indeed. He would have simply ate it. Chuckling some more at himself, he was glad that Aurea was content with him and him only. But getting back to the matter at hand, his current situation was cool and all, but it was time for him to break camp. One of his favorite spots on the internet was the zoo. He was always thrilled to read stories of the animals that escaped those prisons. Most of them were unhappy there in those places so far away from home. Even though the zoo personnel did an outstanding job recreating their habitats, there was still no place like home. Although he was an exceptionally smart pet, he never let on just how smart he was. Fear kept him in the observing mode, which kept the family from suspecting that he'd ever be capable of what he was about to pull off. He continued to surf the net looking for cool animal stories. There were quite a few that escaped captivity but were caught and returned. But in most every story there were rock stars who actually got away, never to return. This would be him by tomorrow this time. Identifying with those who actually got away was thrilling. He was sure that his name would be in lights and that he would become a bit famous once he pulled this off. Oscar and his outlandish escape. Or perhaps how Oscar outwitted them all. The headlines would be hilarious and he would become a legend. Thinking of all this left him a bit sad as he looked back at Aurea, who was sound asleep. He felt really guilty for plotting to leave her, but he couldn't take her with him. There was no way that she would be able to hang out in the sewers beneath the city streets. She wouldn't last a day down there, but he knew he'd have to for a while. With the influence of her parents, there was no way he'd be able to scoot down the street without being spotted in return. Nope, not the look of a rock star at all. And they'd be sure to launch an all-out pet hunt for him once they discovered he was missing. So the original plan was to scoot away while Aurea was in school and her parents were at work. But that would be way too risky. Their apartment, located on the 7th floor of the B. Corcoran condo continuum, so he'd have to take the fire escape to get to the street below. To successfully pull that off meant traveling through the shadows of darkness. Oscar was deep in thought about all of this when he felt the bed move slightly. Aurea was starting to stir awake from her sleep. Shooting a quick glance at her little mermaid clock, he realized that it was almost time for her to get up for school. How long had he been drifting away there at the end of her bed? Sloppy move. Down the hallway, he heard the shower thrust on, a signal that Aurea's mom was already up and moving. Not particularly fond of the idea of being caught at the foot of Aurea's bed while surfing the internet, Oscar moved quickly and quietly. Pressing the off button on the tablet, he placed it next to Aurea's head, gently climbing out of the bed. Straightening the covers, he reached simultaneously to push the door open to his area and entered. All of this, from the moment he heard the shower down the hallway, was done in a matter of seconds. He was as fast as he was smart, but both helped in his preparation to depart. Although even with his brains and speed, he knew that if he didn't leave tonight, the opportunity might not present itself again for months. Tonight would have to be the night. For weeks he noted that Friday nights presented the most opportune times due to the family's going out pattern. Tonight would be no exception to that pattern. All week, Aurea had been pumped about finally getting a chance to go with her parents to see Finding Dory. Finding Nemo was easily one of her favorite movies of all time. Oscar was quite fond of it too, having seen it several times on Aurea's Apple desktop computer. Old Nemo, what a rock star. Good morning, Oscar. Aurea actually startled him that time. Guess what today is, Oscar Pooh? The name had actually grown on him. If he couldn't talk, at least to the point to where she could understand him, if he could talk, at least to the point to where she could understand him, he would have responded to her question. Today is Friday, and tonight you get to hang out with your filthy rich parents for dinner and a movie. And wait, let me guess, you're going to see Finding Dory. And to really drive the point home, he'd add, oh, and by the way, once you return from your shenanigans, I'll be long gone. Actually, he would omit that last part because it sounded a bit cynical. Coming across that way wasn't a true representation of how he felt. He knew she'd take him out and about if she could, especially to the movies. If only pets were allowed into the movie theaters. What a sweet girl. A tear fell as he thought